Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully, everybody's having a great week. Welcome to Freak Show Friday, episode 16. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the depictions of Jesus Christ and also his ancient teachings, if not anything that was given or shown to people by the apostles or people from the early ancient texts. We will also be going over. Just some correlations between what we know um, of the depictions of what is going on in the Bible versus, like I said, ancient texts. And I'm not talking about anything that is just like, oh, well, this is something recent. I'm talking about things that are ancient, things that are old, things that have been around, things that have been taken out. Why would they take out the Gnostic Gospels if anything to why would you take out books that correlate with what you're trying to teach if they didn't have something that was going to, I guess, go against what you're trying to say? Um, we will also be looking at why it is that the church manipulated and took things that were um, not supposed to be in the book, and we'll be looking at why the Ethiopian Bible still has the book of Enoch, and it's the only Bible on the earth that hasn't been manipulated or changed, that was kept, that actually kept that book in there, and why it was so important to have that book in there. Um, like I said, in the canonized version of what the Bible is, you have depictions of um, or narratives that were implemented into the book, but yet you have gospels that were taken out of the book. Why? No one is really sure, but the narrative or the hypothesis is that the reason why they took these books out is because it was not something that was going to teach people or allow people to be in control, because it was showing people how to be out of the grasp or the narrative of control by the mainstream church, which became the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church to be exact. And people forget to think of that narrative because they think, oh, well, this is just, all Christianity. This is Christianity, Christ being Christ like. And when you look at what it's telling you to be Christ like, the narrative of how the church is going about teaching you this is not what was being taught by Jesus or by the um, people who were here on that time. And we're going to be going into the correlations of um, deities or the similarities between Jesus Christ and other figures that were Christ-like and that were born of virgin birth, and who were actually on this earth and who taught the same teachings that Jesus taught. And we're going to see that, the correlation between all of this leads to one thing: being spiritually awakened, being spiritually sound, being of one mind and one body, and understanding that God is in us. We are all God's. We are all God walking this earth in the flesh. We are all God, the creator, because every element that is in our DNA is the same elements that are within the universe. And I'm not just talking about in the ground, in the air, and in rocks. Yes, that's true, but it's in every single element and aspect of life on this planet. And that is what was being taught to the followers of Jesus Christ back in the day. And it seems that the mainstream narrative was to get people away from that narrative, because if we were being taught that we are Christ like, that we are all Christs, that we are all God's, and that the same power that the divine has is within us, that's going to take power away from the elites, the ones who want that control. So what better way to do that than to come up with a book that is going to unify paganism, unify ancient cultures, unify ancient texts, and modify it into, well, let's put this stuff together and let's get these people under control so that way we can have everybody under one roof. And if they don't submit to what we are telling them, then there's going to be some problems. And you're going to find out what those problems are if you don't submit, which is why I said last time in one of the episodes, I believe it was episode 14 or 15, was you see the Spanish Inquisition, and you see the witch trials in Salem, and you see mass murdering of these ancient cultures and mass destruction of ancient civilizations that had this knowledge that was not of the narrative that they wanted people to understand and wanted people to subject themselves to by this power. They wiped them out. They got rid of that information. They got rid of that knowledge. They got rid of that stuff, suppressed it from history, so that way people would subject themselves or submit themselves to what they wanted them to follow. And like I said, this is a very controversial subject. A lot of people don't want to pay heed to it or pay attention because they're so stuck in this box of, oh, well, this is what I've been taught. This is what I know. And what you're about to find out tonight in this episode, that we're going to be talking about this depiction of Jesus Christ, because there is not one single verse in the Bible that describes what Jesus Christ looks like. How crazy is that? There are visions that were given to these apostles, and I use that word very lightly, of what Christ looked like, or visions they had, and showing him in heaven in Revelations and in Luke and in John. But there are not depictions of what Jesus Christ actually looked like. They do not describe him. And that's very weird that you would have these 12 men who were walking around with Jesus Christ from the time he came back from Egypt at the age of 33 on Palm Sunday to the time of his death, that these men did not once, from the time they met him, said, Jesus was this fair looking man who had long hair with a beard, and his skin was like the olive brand, the color of olives, and he had, black matted woolly hair or whatever. There were not depictions of what Jesus Christ looked like by these 12 followers. And we're going to go over some of the texts in the Bible that have descriptions of what the visions they saw of this Christ. And in some of the scriptures, you will see that it does not talk about Jesus returning. It talks about Christ returning back in the end times. And we're going to talk about a lot of this stuff. And we're going to go into some of the teachings that he was talking about. But I think the controversial subject of what Jesus Christ looked like and the depictions that were implemented by the Roman Catholic Church and who they were implemented by and of will shock a lot of people. Because this picture that you guys are all looking at and that you guys are all sitting here going, oh, Jesus Christ, is not actually Jesus Christ. You're worshiping and looking and praying to this figure that had nothing to do with him. It was just like, well, the face of what John Wick is going to look like is going to be, this actor. Because when you associate it with John Wick, you're going to see this actor. And that's what everybody looks at. But a person that was actually, if it wasn't, I'm just using this as a narrative, say that John Wick was really a person, but we don't know what he looks like. Let's give this man a face. So we're going to give him the face of Kermit the Frog. So for every time you look at John Wick, that's what Kermit the Frog is going to look like, because we're telling you that's what it's been like throughout history. That's what's going on here. All right. So tonight we're going to get into this subject. Hopefully I will see you all there. We will all have this great discussion. I know it's going to be something of controversy, but we'll figure it out and we'll get through it. And like I said, on this podcast, I'm not telling you what you need to think. You're going to think whatever you want. This is just information and knowledge that is going to be given to people to do further studying and do further uh, implementations of this subject. Because, like I said, I don't think people really understand until they get into the information portion of the truth of what they are actually reading or what they are actually glorifying or worshiping is not what you think it is, folks. It is not, you know. And I'm glad that, I got an opportunity raised and growing up, be a part or understand and see this. For now, my eyes are open and, not seeing things in the same vision or the same light. But what I'm trying to do is just let people understand that the road that we were all led to going down was a road and a path that was set up, that was narrated and orchestrated by an organization that was leading us away from what was the true nature of what and who and why we were meant to be here. The true path of enlightenment, of spiritualism, becoming like God, becoming Christ like. So we're going to get into that subject tonight. I hope to see you guys all there. For everybody that is following this on my homepage, I am not going to be streaming anymore on my homepage. So please, 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 if you have not gone to Seeker of the Unknown on YouTube, if you have not gone to the Facebook page of Seeker of the Unknown on Facebook, I highly recommend that you do if you're going to follow the page. If not, I am not putting it on my main page account on Facebook because, it's like, pretty much copywriting and just having it for free. If you're not going to subscribe to the channel, it's like, you're just getting the information. So I want to try and, get as much followers and get as many subscribers as I can to the, the podcast. So if you can, please, please, please go over to the Seeker of the Unknown on Facebook and YouTube. Go to YouTube, look it up. It'll be Seeker of the Unknown. You'll see it. It'll be a logo that looks just like this. Let me put it on here for you. It'll look just like that. You will see it on YouTube. You can go on to the channel, and in the podcast section, you'll see a tab. Go on there, click on it, and you will see the playlist, and all the episodes will be listed on there in order. Should be anyway. So yeah, hope to see you guys tonight. It's going to be really good. Like I said, this information that I put out on this podcast is knowledge. It's just something for you to look at and go see and go, hey, let me look at this tidbit and see what's going on with this, because there's got to be something to it, because this is not just me, folks. This is not just me coming at you and saying this is how it is and this is what the facts are. This is me doing my research, my due diligence, and looking and reading up on these subjects and finding these correlations between the two similarities of the Bible and these ancient texts, and saying, okay, well, if this wasn't really what was being said, but they put it in here and twisted it and said, well, God said this for you to do this, to be subjective to the church. There's a whole vast network of where all this can go. Of who Israel wasn't even called Israel. I could get into this whole thing, and we can get into, subject matters on all this stuff. All right. Do I believe that there is a God? Yes. Do I believe that there is an all creator, an omnipotent being? Yes. Do I believe that it is the Bible, of the God of the Bible? No, I do not. Why? Because the paths of this deity that they're talking about in the Bible is something that was based on past ancient pagan ritualistic cultures and implemented into the narrative of what you are all being taught. I know it seems weird. I know it does, because you're like, okay, this dude's blaspheming. He's a sinner. He's, He's lost his rocker, because all people have known is just this one path. And if you try and enlighten somebody, or you try and show them, hey, listen to me, what you are doing and what you are following is not what was being taught in ancient times. It is not what the message was of ancient times, of what Jesus was really saying. Do I believe that Jesus was here and he walked this earth? Yes. Do I believe that Jesus had a message of elevating yourself, elevating your spirit to further have enlightenment and conscious mindedness of what we are and who we are and why we were put here on this earth? Yes. Do I believe that Jesus Christ, well, I can't even say Jesus Christ, because the whole narrative around that was implemented by the Roman Catholic Church. Again, like I said, these things were implemented by the church. This wasn't something that was implemented by Jesus and the apostles. Okay? If you look at what happened after the time that Jesus left, okay, the crucifixion was implemented by the church. The resurrection was implemented by the church. Okay? Why? Because then it would elevate Jesus to that status of God. Now, if we can make that deity, that person, a deity or a divine entity, then you can sit here and say, okay, well, now we have to implement rules and worshiping nature and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it just goes down and down and down into this whole list. And we can get into all of this, which is why I said the teachings of what Christ Jesus was saying was being an example of how we should live, who we should be, how we can elevate our spirit and our body into this consciousness of enlightenment, which is the whole narrative of what he was doing here. What information he was passing on that was from ancient texts, because you got to remember, from the age of 18, or the 18 years he was gone, from 12 to 33, yeah, 18 years, about 20 years that Jesus Christ was gone, you find that he left with his father, who his father was a wealthy merchant. He was able to travel and do many things to different countries and different regions. He left with him and he went to Egypt. We know he went to Egypt because there's the birth, or not the birthplace, but the living quarters of where him and his mother stayed, okay, in Egypt. And we're going to get into that. We know that he learned from the sages and the mystics that were there in Egypt, because a lot of the teachings that he passed on, he learned, and was same thing verbatim, just fitted for the time, so that people would understand what he was saying, was from Egypt. We know that he learned from the sages, the teachers, and the mystics in India, because he went there. Trade routes with his father all the way to Asia and back. We know that he was there in India because there's scribes and texts that talk about him being there and learning about reincarnation, learning about levitation, learning about spiritualism, even in India, or Asia, I'm sorry, in Tibet, where he learned from the Buddhist monks. And we know that he was there because there's even texts that are calling him Ishu. And it says where he came from. This is the thing, folks, is when you are sitting here and you're told one narrative, right? And you're going to believe that. That's what you're going to believe because that's all you know. But when somebody comes and says, hey, this information that you've got, Well, I've got something that was actually really written and told by this person, or shows evidence of this person doing this or doing that outside of that, that they excluded from you. So when he comes back at the age of 32, 33, where it was prophesied that the Messiah would return, and he rode back in on the donkey with leaves, the palms, that's why they call it Palm Sunday, right? It was prophesied. It was something that was said or was told to them. Hey, the Messiah would return. So what does he do? He shows back up at the age of 33, doing exactly what what they had prophesied was going to happen. And a lot of people don't understand that in Israel, okay, the narrative, or a true person who worship or studies under the Torah, when you go to Israel, these people do not like Christians. They don't believe the same thing. They don't think that Jesus Christ was the Messiah. They do not believe that he was the Son of God, which is why they say that they killed him. Now you go back into the text and you find out that the crucifixion was not even in the Word of God. That was something that was implemented by the Roman Catholics when the church first began under Constantine. This thing goes so much further, folks, than what we have been told and what we know. So we're going to get into that tonight. I hope you join me tonight, 6 o'clock, I believe is what it is. So I'm not really sure, but go on Facebook. You'll see the event, and that'll be tonight. And can't wait to see you guys there. It's going to be good stuff. And like I said, it's going to, this subject is something that people will be like, they don't want to hear it. They don't want, that's fine. I'm not telling you got to hear this. I'm not telling you that this is something that you've got, this is the way it is or else. That's not me. I'm not the church. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you got to hear. But I am going to say this: knowledge is power, just like Thoth said. Those that seek knowledge will have power. They will have that understanding. So join me tonight, folks. Seeker of the Unknown, tonight, 6 o'clock. Be there, be square. But it's going to be good. We're going to have some good discussions, and I can't wait to see everybody there. So thank you guys all for following. Thank you guys all for being here. Appreciate you. Subscribe and like the channel. And yeah, we'll get this going. See you guys tonight.